Val.
Ashley.
And Steve.
And I'm Blake. Today we will be talking about how computers work. Computers, we don't often think about it, but it takes a lot to make them and to keep them running, whether it's using a desktop, there we go, a laptop, a phone, a gaming system, or even a calculator. There's quite a bit of intelligence and time needed to create these products that we often take for granted. Even though it may seem complex to understand, it can be easily understood if compared to the human body and how it works. So today we will learn to understand what a computer is, how does hardware and software work, and what are operating systems and programs, and what is their function. With this being said, I now ask, what is a computer? A computer is a machine that processes information. It does this by taking in raw information, storing it in the memory, processes the information, and releases the results or the output. The process of taking in raw information is called the input. An example of input would be opening a new file or placing a CD in your computer, no different than if we were given a piece of paper with a math problem on it. We would place the problem on a desk and store it just like a computer would store it, or for a better term, its memory. Then we would work to solve the problem, as the computer would call it, processing. And finally, when it's done, we would deliver the solution or the output. So with this knowledge, we move on to the skeleton of the computer, the hardware. It is called such because it is mostly made up of all the hard bits from the computer, such as the keyboard, the mouse, or the headphones. And while they may be able to be altered, it is only able to do so slightly because hardware has mostly been built to form one function. Just like our skeleton is made up of tough bones with some flexibility in certain areas, but mostly it is a static structure. So now that the skeleton is in place, we need some muscles. Which in this case is the software. Opposite from hardware, the software is able to be reprogrammed as often as needed, which is how we can run a game while listening to music and at the same time download a movie. So whereas the hardware is what makes a computer powerful, it's the software that uses the power and makes it flexible, much like how our skeleton couldn't move without our muscles and perform so many tasks. Finally, the complex piece, the brain, or the operating system, which is also called the OS. The OS is the piece of the computer that is responsible for connecting the software to the hardware while simplifying basic controls, such as the input, output, storage, and processing, as mentioned before. It is the OS that applications are built off of. Instead of designing a whole new program designed for each application, the OS simplifies basic controls for easier use using a fundamental program called the BIOS. The BIOS is the basic input-output system. BIOS is what we call firmware, a piece of software that is normally static but can be updated. The BIOS is much like the nerves throughout the body as it connects the OS to the software and the hardware and will send information as needed. Whereas the OS is usually the same between computers like Windows, Apple, iOS, or the Linux, the BIOS can vary between hardware and manufacturers. To sum up, computers are incredible machines that can be used in virtually limitless amount of ways. We have become so accustomed to them that we don't often think about it, the time and energy people have put into building them. And now we know more about computers in the sense that they're just like the human body, with the skeleton being the hardware, mostly unchangeable and strong, the muscles being the software, dynamic and flexible, while the brain is the OS using the BIOS, the nerves, to communicate to the body while simplifying basic chores of input, output, storage, processing. So therefore, we know through the complex body that the computer is made up of, we can interact with billions of people daily while doing virtually limitless amount of tasks at the same time.